everybody, to our Strata Ventures Monday night webinar. Enid and Oriana, if you don't mind giving me a thumbs up, or if you could see us clearly and the presentation is showing clearly right there. Okay, thank you so much. Welcome everybody. My name is Diego Mello at Strata Ventures, and as we bring every other Monday a unique topic and some unique speakers, we have today with us Ron Dancy of Dancy Design and E.O. Craine of BRPS Title. And they're going to shed a little bit of light today on the title process and the permitting process when it comes into the investment world. So for those of you that are joining us for the first time, I want to welcome you. Tonight, the webinar is going to be from 6:30 to 7:30. And we do encourage that there are a lot of questions, because that's what our speakers are here about, is to answer questions for you. If you have questions, and those of you that are joining us via Zoom, the questions, please put all your questions in the Q&A, which is the Q&A section down at the bottom of your Zoom. We're not going to be doing any polls, so there won't be any of those things lighting up. But in the chat, if you need to ask something out of the off topic, please send that over to our moderators. We have Oriana and Enid right there of Strata Ventures that are handling that for us. And guys, right, if we do get boring tonight, they could just hit the end button, right? You can hit the end button and hopefully we can see you guys at a later date. But definitely, guys, this event is for you. So we encourage questions. It's a perfect time to ask questions. We have two industry experts here that are really, I think, at the forefront of what they're doing and rapidly growing their companies. A little bit about myself, for those of you that don't know me. I'm the owner of Strata Ventures. Quickly, I was born in South America, came to the US at the age of 4. All my schooling was done here in Houston, and I began investing in May of 2012. And in 2012, I also founded Strata Ventures. And in 2014, right now, I developed the current platform that is Strata Ventures, and launched our national platform in 2020. And we're now in over 19 states and growing, thanks to the ability to go on the webinar and on the Zoom platform, guys. And our company motto is, it's a win-win or we don't do it, which I know, EL, I like your motto, and which I know you'll probably talk a little bit about that, but I definitely want to welcome everybody. And what is Strata Ventures? Since we were established in 2012, we became a national full-service real estate investment company with these 4 prongs, which are acquisition analysis, real estate services, project management, and funding. And we believe that all of those come into play when you're dealing with real estate investment, and especially with the vendors that you're working with. And here tonight, we have 2 really good solid vendors that we use in our industry and growth. Here's the Strata Ventures team, which you guys can see. Look at that, Ron Dancy right there, sir. Handles our architectural and design for all of our new construction projects and additions on the remodeling. And you can see everybody here that's at Strata Ventures. Please feel free to reach out, and they'll be happy to help you there. The landing page, in order to know more about us, is Investor Real Estate Training, and Oriana and Enid will be sharing that in the chat box, guys. What do we believe in SVI? We believe that investors analyze, act, invest, and make profit with one word in mind, and that's risk. So by working with people such as EL at BRPS, EL, you help mitigate risk from the acquisition part of it and also at the closing side.
Absolutely,
because,
to protect the transaction.
It's to protect the transaction. And Ron, you protect the transaction all the way from sourcing, is this a good lot even to do anything in? And most of all, knowing is, are we putting the right thing on the right lot? Right. So that's our mentality. If you want to know more about us, go to investorrealestatetraining.com, and we'll be happy to work with you in any of these, as we'd like to say, bullet points. And these are free one-on-one training sessions that we'd love to get to know you and see if we're going to be a good fit or not. So, all right, let's take a look here at our speaker, one of our speakers today. So EL, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. I started getting all the bullet points, and there were items that I did not put on there. It was a lot. So welcome, sir. We appreciate having you.
Well, I'm your different title partner. I'm a title partner that actually assists in the growth of the opportunities of the individuals who come to the office, be it investors, be it realtors, or be it the consumer themselves. Title is more than a transaction. It's basically a futuristic endeavor. Closing is not the ending, closing is the beginning. And a lot of people don't understand that. Once you acquire that property, there's so much more to do. It's to make sure that you increase its value. So I do things a little bit differently on the title side. There's the transactional, but there's also the support, and which is why I'm so happy that Diego allowed me to participate with Strata Ventures and the things that they do, because I'm a support, I'm a collaborator. You know, Diego knows this. I don't have to make money on 20 transactions. I need to be a part of 20 transactions. That's the dynamic that I work with, because that allows me to grow my business as I assist in the growth of your business, especially when you're acquiring property to fix, flip, buy, hold, whatever the case may be, to make sure that the transaction is protected and that there are no blemishes and dents and dings in the transaction. Mm-hmm. That's what BRPS Title is here for. And that's what I do.
And if I could piggyback on that and to recommend why BRPS Title is the title company that we use, is that they are constantly also educating the people we work with in our industry. Realtors, you guys are huge on working with realtors, making sure that that transaction is solid from beginning to end. Not a lot of companies do that. So thanks for helping us out with that, EO. It helps better people come into the industry, which means we practice better business.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now we have here Mr. Ron Dancy. If you want to go ahead and let us know a little bit about yourself, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, Diego, for having me tonight. My name is Ron Dancy. I want to give Ariana a shout out because she made me look better in this picture than I really am. But I'm from Maryland, and I ended up moving to Houston by almost 6 years now, 5 or 6 years. In doing so, I have 15 plus years in CAD engineering and architecture. So when I moved to Houston, I created my own design firm to consult and to do floor plans, blueprints, help you with your conceptual designs as well. I joined Strata Ventures probably about 3 years ago. And ironically enough, I met Diego through Craigslist. So he's big time now, but I've seen his ad on Craigslist. So that's my start with Diego. But so I went through the training, and so I really value what Strata Ventures had to offer. And I'm just happy to be a partner with Strata Ventures to help any investor or realtor, developer with their plans, permitting, things of that nature. And that's some of the things I'll be touching on tonight about permitting, whereas some of the pitfalls, and again, as Diego mentioned, the risk factor in terms of is the right lot to buy to put this particular home on. And if it is, I can guide you through what type of plans we need to put together, what type of permitting for the applications, the fees, impact fees from the city, the county, what have you. So I pretty much from start to finish help you with getting a project, putting it together, and then finally getting a permit to start building, or whether it's renovations as well. So.
Well, Ron, thank you. And I know a while back when you were putting together your company, am I keeping up to that promise that I said, as we're starting to grow, you start to grow? Are we keeping you busy?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think some of us have been affected by the pandemic and others have been affected positively. So I'm just glad to mention that you've been able to tread water and keep your head above water and do a great job at that.
Yep. And EL, you're as the new construction projects that are coming out through Ron's ability to help us run them through the city, we've got a good amount of them that are coming out, and they're going to need closure at your company. So
I'm happy to hear that, because I have hungry teenagers. I have to feed my teenagers, Diego. I mean, they're hungry.
All right. So ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start the information session here. So if you don't mind, feel free to put your questions into the Q&A session, but we'll go ahead and let them do their formal presentation, and then we can open that up to Q&As, and we'll make it more of a round table, if that's okay with both the speakers. Are you guys all right with that?
Yeah. Okay.
So here's my question. Let's see here. A number between 1 and 2. Go ahead, EL.
2 drinks.
2 drinks. Okay, that means Ron, you start. Go ahead. because we'll let EL simmer down a little bit.
All right. All right.
Welcome, sir.
All right. Absolutely. So just a few things I wanted to touch on again. For the permitting, I know that it is relatively difficult in some sense. Just knowing exactly what's needed. The biggest thing right now is just the timeline on, especially in the city of Houston, of just getting permits approved. I think obviously because of the pandemic and some of the things that's been going on, they had to make shift, just like a lot of companies, in terms of staff working from home, reviewing plans, and actually, the demand. Right now, the demand in Houston is very high, which is great for us because there's a lot of business going on. It hasn't slowed down relatively as much, and but that comes with a large workload. So that's one of the things I try to present as well, to make this very seamless in a fact where if you're coming to me to say, hey, I'm doing one of these projects, what can you tell me what's going on? And mainly during the summertime, which is, at the height of the construction season, I can tell you to say, hey, it's going to be 45 to 60 days, or I'm seeing 90 days in some cases, just depending on what information and plans are needed for your particular project. So, I try not to stay firm to too many timelines, because anything can happen. Whereas right now we're having this tropical storm where this is going to put another 5 to 7 days, probably even 10 days of an additional time to your schedule. So these are the things I try to foresee that when I'm talking to the client, to try to make you aware that, this is not going to be an overnight situation. It's not going to be done quickly. We will all like to get things done quickly and get started, because we all are excited about getting into investing and what have you. So typically when a project comes online for investors, Pedro, which is the acquisition a manager, a team member with Strata Ventures, he'll email me, he'll call me and say, hey, Ron, this is what I'm taking a look at. I have an investor that wants to do this project. I'll find the right plan, the floor plan that we can utilize, or I can just say simply, this is not going to be the right land lot for us to start with. And some issues where we're in a floodplain or flood zone, the process is going to be a little longer, because we have to get other professionals involved to deal with more of the design process, whereas the civil engineer is coming on board. So if that's the case, I won't necessarily steer you in a different direction. I would just simply say, hey, it's going to be maybe another 3 weeks that's going to be added onto your schedule, just to be very aware of what's going on. I try to make this very simple process with the permitting process, because I've done quite a few at this juncture in the last 3 to 4 years. So I can pretty much just get everything packaged together and just submit it. So it may seem kind of funny to say, hey, I haven't heard anything, what's going on? Because, I'm putting out all the fires in the background. So, our clients will be worried to say, hey, what's going on? And they feel like they may have to step in and, answer the questions and take over. And that's not necessarily the case. So we try to keep everything very streamlined and very to the point, professional. And then, from A to Z, I pretty much try to put everything together. So that way you don't have to worry. But again, it's a case-to-case scenario when it comes to permitting. So if you have any questions about it, I can let you know. But yeah, that's pretty much kind of the standard that I put together for permitting.
Well, let me ask you this question here, Ron. So let's say a property is vetted through you. We could take a look at the meets and bounds and find out what we're able to build on it. And then what are the next expenses that are occurring while the property is vacant? Give us a little rundown about that. What to expect in regards to those upfront soft costs?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, before I jump into what you're going to, quote unquote, pay, there's been some issues where they said like the city had to knock down a building or remove a structure from the land, and we were unaware, or maybe the title or bankruptcy or something did not show. Whereas I'm going through the process, and then here, while it's in queue, they're sending me a notice to say, hey, we can't approve your permit because we have this issue. So I'm looking at it, okay, so why did you wait so long to tell me, this particular issue is on the file, and that's another issue too with the city, is that we be moving right along and I'm anticipating the permit to come out, and then something like this pops up. So, and that's a fee that is unforeseen. I couldn't tell you what the amount could be, or there's no standardized, numbers or list of fees that the city charges. It just depends on what was done 5 years ago, and that was the bill that the new owner has to occur. Some of the fees that we're going to have to pay is going to be impact fees, which are, essentially your home or your project or your building is going to be connected to the city utilities. So if there was a previous house on the lot, then your impact fees won't be as high because the plumbing, the piping, all the infrastructure is already on that lot. If we're building new construction, then we have to tap into that connection. So that fee is going to be a lot higher. I've seen some fees as high as $2,000 to connect, and I've seen some as low as $200 because that piece of property already had an address number and it already had a previous home on it that was knocked down. So that's something to anticipate. Then it's the actual building permit itself. Initially, you'll pay a deposit of, you'll pay 25% of the deposit. To say roughly, if it's $900, you're going to be paying around $250, $275 just to get your permit into the the review queue. So that's another thing. And then, of course, we have, the water meters and everything else that contractors and the plumbers, the mechanical HVAC guys have to go to get a permit as well. So that's coming more during the construction part, but that is a fee that you have to be aware of because, again, it's a multitude of steps that have to go into place to build a home. And again, I have a construction company that I tie into with the design, and that's something that if I'm the contractor or the GC on that project, we can talk about later on in the process. But impact fees, the building a permit fee, and then the water tap fees and stuff like that is something initially that you have to pay for when it comes to the bill. And then again, like I said, it may be other things that come up, whether it's taxes or some type of fees that was already tied to the project that I'm unaware of, but I certainly will communicate with every client that I'm working with.
Okay, so now that, let's say, we understand those fees there, now the tract of land has been purchased. Tell me certain things that before you go into doing your architectural and design and getting it to the engineers, what do you need to have? I understand, sometimes when you tell us you're saying we need the soil reports, we need the surveys. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So yeah, so what I do anytime that a client comes on board with Strata Ventures and I am the designer or I guess the architect in driving this project for that portion, I send out a next step checklist of items that I would need from the client. One of which is going to be a soil report or a geotechnical soil testing report, which basically is needed for the structural engineer to design the foundation of the home. So we need to know whether or not this land is worth building on, and if we're going to build on it, what type of foundation is going to be sufficient for us to build, right? So that's one portion. Another portion is typically I would like to, if not possible, to get a land survey done while in the process of purchasing the land. So that way we can kind of cut down on the schedule of getting a land survey done while the title is being taken care of. But if not, we have vendors that we use that once you purchase the property and for sure that you're going to invest into this property, I can certainly set up the schedule to get it ordered and get the survey company out there to take care of that. Now,
Okay.
also with the survey, it's a elevation certificate, which sometimes is needed because, in the city of Houston, I don't think it's needed as much. In the Galveston area, it is, but that's really based on how high the land is going to sit above the sea level. And when you're building a foundation, it has to be at a certain height. So we need to know what is the level of the land before we start to break ground. So the land survey and the elevation certificate usually are packaged together depending on the project and the location. One of the projects I'm working on with Diego sits in the floodplain. So we had to get the elevation certificate and kind of find out we had to get a mitigation and drainage plan. So that really dictated the additional services that are needed going into putting this all together. And these are things that I handle because I have a handful of vendors that I'm using consistently, and they're on time, they're professional, and they provide the right services for the right price. So then we have the architectural plans, which is what I provide. And we have the structural engineering, which is basically what you need to build the actual home for the framing, the foundation, the roofing, and things of that nature. So those are a couple of things that are very necessary, that's very needed going into this. So realistically, if this is not done if this is not done, then I cannot submit your project to permitting. So those 4 items for sure, we definitely need.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question now. Let's talk about timelines, because this is the part that most people, when we train them on new construction, is I always open up my training sessions in new construction saying, first, you gotta learn patience. If you're gonna get involved in new construction, you gotta learn patience. What are we saying time-wise from when the land is acquired and we've done all that other feasibility study and then order the soil reports? By working with you to get your design, then moving that into our engineering, and from engineering, putting it into the city's hands, which we all know it's out of our hands at that point. And
Right.
one of the services that we love that you do for us and to all our members is you have permit running services.
Right.
And that is amazing. So give us a little timeline from when somebody comes to you and says, Ron, I want to build a new home, but not for me, it's an investment. But let's go and look at these comps, and this is what I need plans for. What are we talking about timelines?
Right. Okay. The permanent side, it depends too, because initially when an investor comes on the board, if they have all their paperwork in order with the LLC and the EIN number and things of that nature, then that could be the same day when we get started if they send all that to me, right? Okay. Now with the land survey, usually that takes about well, depending on where we at, because some guys are busier than others. I'm seeing the quickest is 5 to 7 days. And then in areas like San Antonio is 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So that just gives you an idea, depending on what's going on in that particular month with that particular company, the timeline for that. So let's just say with San Antonio, we're at 4 weeks just for the soil testing, right? That's already a month, and that's pretty much, I can't do anything in regards to moving into the next stage for the structural engineering. So we're already at 4 months. The land survey usually could take 5 to 7 days, and that could be in conjunction with the soil testing. So that could be within that 1 month. So after that month, the architectural designs, depending on if I have to make any adjustments or design a whole new plan, will be determined on the land lot. So typically we have some plans that we work with that we can kind of massage and recreate or redesign. And depending on the client's taste or availability of what we can actually build, that may add on another couple of weeks, just based on if the client wants to go with something more of a default situation, or if they want to add or take away from a particular plan. So that may be another 2 weeks. Structural engineering is roughly around 2 weeks. And so all in, I'm seeing right now, probably the fastest or minimum is probably 45 days to 60 days, just to get everything together, because we're working with other vendors. They have other clients and they're servicing other areas. So we're looking at 45 to 60 days before we're ready to get into the permitting.
Okay, that definitely, guys, is something to know, that if you're going to go into working with number one of these new construction project, is that you may want to sit with your architect and ask these particular types of questions, for the fact that sets your timeline. Because as we all know in real estate, time isn't just money, right, guys? Time is everything.
Yeah.
And with that also comes the fact that now you have the city in which you're presenting that to them, basically a new plan that they've never seen before, unlike what we're doing right now in co-housing. I remember when I was in Denver a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, I was talking to, and you said that the city of Houston now has our stock plans in hand, and now we feel we might even get a little bit of a time saver based on that. So
yeah,
basically, don't reinvent the wheel is what I'm trying to say.
right.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, and just to speak on that, yes, I mean, that's one of the things I guess it's kind of a bonus or a magic pill that I've been able to discover when it comes to that. All the plans that I've worked on in my portfolio, I'm going to just submit all of them to the city of Houston and have my collection with these guys that are pre-approved. And so when I am going into submit for a particular permit, I can use this particular plan. And the only thing I have to submit is probably the survey, the site plan, the soil report, and there was a couple other things that's on the list. So hopefully, we're keeping our fingers crossed, at least for the city of Houston, that we're able to get this done and we can cut down the review for the new builds in Houston. So, I'm certainly looking for the next round of projects that we got coming online that we'll be able to do that.
All right. And so before we close on your topic here, we have people from around the country that are listening.
Okay.
What would you say if somebody were to say, hey, Ron, let me buy you a cup of coffee. I'm visiting Houston because I wanted to get to meet you from, let's say, Riverside, California, or Phoenix, Arizona. Help me find a good architect or designer. What do I need to ask in my city? How would you help?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. I guess first it would be great if it was
first of all, can you help them if they're in another city?
Yeah, honestly, yes, I can. I have other partners that I've worked with, some projects I've done in my hometown of Maryland, Florida, and in California, actually. So I have different partners that I've kind of tailored it down a little bit, but if need be, I can always reach out to people that I know to help you with that. If not, you can just kind of just bring me on as a project lead, and I can pretty much, vet these people for you, because honestly, I may provide you with some questions and some insight, but it may be other triggers that this guy is going to say, or he or she's going to say that may prompt more questions on my end, because I know what to look for, right? And so, but I mean, typically word of mouth would be great. Like I said, use myself as a project lead. But if you can get reviews on this person, get some of their previous projects, photos, that'd be great. And just kind of gauge with the person, if he's more laid back with the information, if he feel like he or she's trying to withhold information, or he's forthcoming. I feel that anyone that's in a expert position, a professional, should be providing more information based on one or two questions, because we know exactly what you're anticipating on wanting and what you're going to need if I come on board as your architect.
Awesome. Well, get ready, my friend. I don't know if Pedro told you the good news that PadSplit, which is the co-housing operating company that we work with for our co-housing affordable housing units, just told us about 2 weeks ago that anywhere we want to open market, that we can have at least 30 rental doors, or basically 5 7-bedroom doors on the ground. They're going to move their platform and start servicing that for us. Okay. And so get ready. Denver's going to be when we're going to start having you as a project lead over there, my friend, because
awesome,
we're getting ready to go. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Ron. And make sure if you guys have questions for Ron Dancy, please put them into the Q&A for him there. And then now let's go ahead and hear from Mr. E.L. Craine, my friend.
How you doing? Well, first thing about BRPS title, we're licensed in 33 states, and we're licensed in every state that Strata Venture works in. That's where we can begin at. So our services start out with title, and a lot of people understand title is insurance, okay? Title ensures that the project is viable, legal, and that you can buy or sell. And most people don't take that into account because we're a protection company. We're protecting what you're purchasing. We're protecting what you're building. So I look at things from contract to close. We get the contract, there's a necessary earnest money if it's a buy-sell agreement, and then we start pulling the title commitments to basically get a 24, 36, and sometimes a 5-year chain of title to see and make sure that there are no liens or encumbrances. Liens are the mortgage that was on there, some work they had done in regard to a HELOC or a second lien. But the encumbrances are those things that most investors don't look into. There's an encumbrance like if the previous owner had the city fix the driveway, the city's going to put a lien on that house or that property. If the city changes out the light pole and it's adjacent to the property, they're going to put an encumbrance on it, and that has to be paid for. So you have to look at all these things. I tell people all the time, invest that $125 a year to see what your property looks like on paper in regard to title commitment. You need to know if there are liens and encumbrances. For instance, in the state of Texas, there's a thing that's called the State of Texas Constitutional Lien. You can put a lien on property because somebody owes you money based on a receipt, okay? Now, say you owe me, I tell people all the time, you rather owe God than owe me, because I'm gonna hit you with that State of Texas lien. And if you owe me $5,000, I'm gonna put that lien on your property. I'm gonna encumber your property. So at the end of the day, when you go to closing and somebody says, hey, Craine has a lien on there for $5,000. What is this about? Well, you called me up. I said, well, you owe me $5,000. You can pay it or you don't close. You have got to protect your interest in the real estate that you are investing in, but you also need to know what the real estate you're investing in, if it's a problem or not, because there are some clouded titles out there. There are some heirship affidavits out there. And I like to do it this way. You don't know what's entitled until you pull the commitment. And my favorite story to tell about title is try closing on something where the deceased husband had 3 ex-wives and he had an agreement with each wife and they showed up at closing looking for their cut. You need to know what's going on with this real estate that you're investing in. That happens a lot. You'd be surprised. Oh, this man had 2 daughters over here, but they didn't know about the 4 sons he had over there. So these heirship affidavits and these things like that can encumber your property or encumber your acquisition of a deemed property that you want. This is what title is in for, all right? I'm an intermediary. I am here to make sure that you're buying the right thing with no liens or encumbrances, that you can sell it with no liens or encumbrances, and making sure that when you are investing, that you are securing the real estate so it is yours or your family, however your LLC. That's what title is for. You need to understand when we get that commitment back, it's going to tell us that we need a new survey. It's going to tell us what debt is on that property. Mechanics liens are on that property. Mortgage liens are on that property. Going back to encumbrances again. When that power box, those properties where they have the power box in the backyard, if that power box blows, when they come out there and fix it, if they have to break that foundation that the power box is on, you're responsible for that. You are responsible.
Wait. Okay, so in the corner, because one of our properties, there's a power box. It's a green looking one that we have covered with bushes.
Right.
There's a concrete pad there.
There you go.
So
if they break that pad, it's just like a commercial property. You know how they sell pad sites in front of a grocery store, stuff like that? That pad cost, and it has to be replaced. They will put a lien on that subject property in regard to the repair replacement of that pad. These are the things that investors don't take a look. Oh, I can turn this house into a 4-plex. I can turn this property into 6 townhome units, but they don't look at those little things. As Ron said, when you're investing in real estate, it's a knowledge-based investment. The more knowledge you have about that investment, from contract to close, from the title, can you put what you want on that property, which is Ron and Diego's expertise? My expertise is making sure you can put something on that property without interference. That's what title is for, protection. You have to protect your financial interest. And as a financial intermediary, that's what we help you do in the title company business. Protect you, sir.
Let me ask you a question, Neil. Not all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but for a good while, international money has been coming into the United States, and a lot of investors, whether new, seasoned, or people that are just starting to dabble in this, are starting to get a little bit more of a view of how to work with international money.
Right.
Can you tell me and our audience, what is one of the most important things to do when you're working with a foreign organization partnering with you on a property here in the United States on formation and most of all proceeds and taxation? Can you enlighten us on that?
Well, yeah, actually the road of least resistance is an internationally recognized financial institution. That's the road of least resistance. For instance, the Bank of Houston is actually the Bank of Scotland. So if you were to have an international investor from Scotland, he can run his money right through the Bank of Scotland because the Bank of Scotland owns the Bank of Houston. Boom. Then you have situations like Ron's from the Nova area, Northern Virginia, Maryland, up there. If you use the United States Federal Credit Union, it's automatically, the monies are already vetted. As soon as they hit the credit union, it's already vetted. So when it comes to international funding and international finance, if you do ABC Bank and ABC Country, they're going to hold that money 10, 21, 45, 90 days until they make sure you're not a terrorist, for want of a better description. Because any money that comes in from out of the country now, you're a terrorist. So it's all depends. So Nobody likes the big box banks but those kind of transactions, let the big box banks do all the vetting so that it can go to your community bank or your credit union or your investment fund.
Okay, so here, another question here would be, is let's say Ron is working on a transaction and I'm his international partner.
Right.
And I provide capital from let's say Colombia or something. And
Okay.
I basically say, hey, Ron, here's the money that's going to go into this asset, but you and I are going to set up a business, but it's going to be a foreign owned business.
Right.
Now, when that property sells, what is the taxation on that? And what is the holdback that you guys have to do, which most people don't realize you guys have to do this? Is it 10% of proceeds, right? Or 10% of the sale?
Actually, it's the funding partner who's going to deem the holdback requirements.
Okay.
It's the funding partner. And to give you the perfect example, you said, say the money came from Colombia. If that money goes from Colombia to Florida to Houston, they're going to double vet that money in Florida. Florida is the financial fraud capital of the world. So if you run that money through Florida, it's going to be held over in Florida. It could be anywhere from 30 to 60 days, especially if it runs through South Florida. I'm just going to use the phrase, oh my God, if it runs through South Florida. So it's best to have a banking relationship that is a part of an international financial platform. And the one I always suggest, who has its vetting down to a science, if you can link up with a bank that has a relationship with the Bank of England, the Queen's Bank, that is the road of least resistance anywhere in the world. But if you are trying to get monies from countries with civil unrest, your Libyas, your Afghanistans, your Syria, stuff like that, you are in a world of trouble. And I'll give you a perfect example from personal experience. I was trying to raise capital 10 years ago, and I reached out to Syria. Oh my Lord, I have never been bum rushed like that in my entire life, because they asked me, was I trying to funnel money to invest in terrorism? I didn't know terrorism was an investment until that time. So when you're looking at civil unrest and when you're seeking out partners and investors internationally, the easiest way to go through the consulates and the embassies. Do presentations through the consulates and the embassies. Make sure that you have relationships with these international platform banks that allow for the money to come in with, I'm going to use the phrase, road of least resistance. It's always about how it's perceived. And when it comes to the government and money coming internationally, their perception is your reality.
Okay. And now bringing it back to onshores, to the local level, and to let's say now focusing in on an investor.
Okay.
What would you recommend, DL, be the first steps of a new investor or a seasoned investor when they're looking at a property that is being presented to them by a wholesaler, a seller, or a realtor? When they come to you, what's the minimum they can do to start the protection process, right?
$125 investment in the review of the title commitment.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the process and what you guys timeline and what do they have to look for? Basically,
if they identify a property, because we do this for realtors all the time, if they identify a property they're interested in purchasing, we'll say, okay, I want to see if is it in foreclosure, not in foreclosure. I say, hey, pay the $125. Let us pull the title commitment and a 24-month chain of title. That way we can see exactly what's going on that property. We can also tell you when the last time it had a survey, if it's going to need a survey, because of Schedule B. And Schedule C is going to tell us what liens and encumbrances are on there. So now you know what you're dealing with, because most of the time a seller says, I want to walk away with XYZ amount of dollars. But then they find out they have all these liens and encumbrances on there, or they'll say, okay, I'll sell you this property, but you got to take on all my liabilities. This is why the $125 is worth it, just to vet out title to make sure you are investing in the right parcel of land.
Yep. Well, it's a well worth investment there, because sometimes when those encumbrances or those title issues arise, it's months.
Yeah.
I mean, it's months that these things can take on. Was there anything special or specific that you wanted to talk about in your section here, and then we can open it up to the Q&As?
I'm going to be redundant. investigate what you're buying, investigate what you're selling. Even if it's yours, does not mean it does not have liens and encumbrances on there. You could have been in that property for 12 to 25 years. You don't know what has happened in that 12 to 25 years. Easiest example, when you're sharing a fence, you're repairing your fence, the guy next door, he don't want to repair his fence. What do you have? You have it's the same thing with title. You have got to know what you are investing in. I live by that. You know, one of the things, I'm on the board over at the Greater Houston Builders Association. So I see this stuff with the developers and the independent builder all the time. They're always asking, and I always, not my fault, you didn't investigate before you bought it.
Yeah.
Investigate what you're buying and know what you're selling. That is what I would say.
Before we go into the, go ahead.
That literally just happened to me, by the way.
Yeah.
Wow. What about the fence?
Yeah. We knocked down a fence, and the guy was like, well, he already knew he was in the wrong, but he still wanted to have a little bit of pushback because the lot had been vacant for 20 years. So when we purchased it and we knocked it down, he was still like, why you knocked my fence down? Well, you own my property, buddy. So, you know, so we're dealing with that right now. So that is a real issue.
My mother, just to speak of that before we go into the questions, my mother-in-law sent me her and I have a special relationship, and she's hilarious. She sent me a picture of two people sitting outside in their backyard without any clothes on and said, cut the grass like this every weekend and your neighbors will buy you a new fence. So there's there's the secret, everybody. That's all right, let's start this here. All right, we can thank my mother-in-law for that. Okay, let's start off with Crystal Jones, first one on the Q&A here. And feel free, guys, to openly answer that if we can keep it short and concise. Do any of the speakers work in Atlanta, Georgia?
We have the capability. Georgia is an attorney state. So basically, in regard to title and closing, you have got to go through an attorney in Georgia. So BRPS title will go around Georgia, but we don't stop in Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, I just did a project probably about actually the same time that we went to Atlanta. There you go. So yeah, I've dealt with Atlanta and Georgia of doing projects and actually the permitting situation for them as well. Excellent.
Reach out to Ron, Crystal. He'll be happy to help you. Mark Fletcher asked here, should there be a big concern with scammers who can obtain a title by stealing some of your information online, basically title fraud?
Well, title fraud is really kind of hard. Title fraud. I mean, the liens that they can put on there is not hard, but people selling things online has been happening a lot lately, but we clean it up at title. It's all about that. It's that investigation component again.
Okay, that's a very good one, because I mean, we're even seeing commercials now, guys, of like attorneys saying something about, come to us, we'll help you if your title was stolen or your deed was stolen or something like that. So don't go to the attorney and waste that money. Come to the title company, right?
Exactly, because the 125 will let you know what's going on, and if you need to retain an attorney, then you will after that fact.
Oh, perfect, guys. I love it. This one here is for you, Ron. Myra Mallet, do you handle small multifamily new construction projects 2 to 10 units?
Yes, we
absolutely.
Do. Is that in Texas or where is that?
I think Myra's here in Texas. Myra, you can find Ron in the Members Center directory. His information will be in there.
Yeah, so basically I can handle, we can do design build. So I can design the home for you or a property, and we can put the construction budget together as well to build it.
Okay, awesome. Christina, we were asked, do you work in all states? Christina, I would reach out to each individually based off the particular services that they're going to be putting out. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for that question there, Christina. Myra asked, in Harris County, how can you determine if there are any utilities to a piece of vacant land that has never had a structure on it?
Well, that's going to be, go ahead, Myra, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, basically the boundary survey, the survey from the survey company will determine that.
Absolutely.
Survey company. Awesome,
Absolutely.
Myra. Thank you.
Mhm.
Let's see, Roya Javid asked, general estimate for total fees for a co-housing new build. Okay, if somebody comes to SVI the way we've been working right now, Ron, from dirt to keys, what is your engineering and your architectural costs and fees outside of any of the additionals, you know, site prep, mitigation, all those things?
Okay, so if we could talk offline. If you're an SVI member, I generally take care of our members because that's how we do. But I have a situation where I usually would charge X amount of dollars, but if you're my SVI member, get in contact with me, let me know, and then we can kind of work out the details and make it, you know, feasible for you.
Right, and for that question, guys, for those of you that are working with architects and engineers, not every project is the same. Not every project has the same square footage, and some of them may have a standard price per square foot. Some may have a standard base fee. So you want to start to ask them what it is that how they're working. But most of
Now,
all,
I will say this, Diego. I'm sorry to cut you off, but some guys will promise you $75, 75 cents per square foot, you know, to say, hey, I'll do the whole thing for you. You get the plans and the CAD drawing, and it's just terrible. Some architects charge $5 per square foot and don't include the structural engineering. So it just really depends on what your budget is and what you're needing, because they will dictate on what they're going to do for you.
and Ron is definitely very reasonable. But most of all, from what I've heard from the builders and the lenders that have done a lot of the reviews of his work, Ron, your information is very detailed, which means we have not yet had a single kickback of any of the lender base. And actually, we've gotten a ton of that's awesome from the builders because they really
Well,
appreciate that.
I will say that's a gift and a curse, because sometimes I stay too long on designing those plans. So thank you.
Yeah, Alana
Yeah.
Robinson asked, are there multiple home designers or just one design that is preferred for the co-housing option with pad split?
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that we will all have to discuss together. I know Pedro came to me several times where it's some smaller lots where we may have to discuss doing a 2-story. So we may have to be a little bit careful with that because of what's needed on both levels and the size of the footprint. So if that's the case, then, you know, get with Diego and Pedro, and then we can kind of figure out if we have to, you know, design something for that particular lot.
Absolutely. And for those of you that are hearing the names pad split and co-housing and you don't know what we're speaking of, feel free to reach out to Enid and Oriana and get to talk to us. We'll really fill you in. It's a big endeavor that we're taking on nationally now with national partners to make sure we really fix the affordable housing arena here. Let's see here. Margaret asked, could you briefly explain that process if it's possible? Let me see here. Miss Margaret, that question was done back in at 6:55. Not really sure what that question was about at that point, and I apologize if you could go ahead and restate it. Here's a question. What makes the land not a good fit to build a home on it? What would keep it from moving you on to the next step?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So basically, so currently the floor plan that we're using is 28 by 65, a rectangle. There's building lines that's required for any city or county that you're going to build on. So we have to determine the building line. So if we have a lot that's 100 feet long and we're needing 65 feet, we have to account for the building line. So it really depends on what that particular city wants, because sometimes it's 15 feet from the front of the road, and sometimes it's 25 feet. So the building lines are really going to dictate how much of a piece of property that you can put on the land.
Okay. Let's see here. Lou Silva asked welcome back, Lou. It's always good to hear from you. From a structural perspective, how can one tell whether or not a house has foundation or internal wall issues? Basically, unable to gauge possible repair costs based on what we're unable to see, or is there a general contractor, or is this where a general contractor comes in to make that determination? So I guess one of the questions, and that's a good question there, Lou, is, you know, when we're walking properties and we see foundation issues, right? We see cracks in the walls and leaning and things like that. Is it appropriate then to, let's say, call you out, or more of a structural engineer needed for something like that? That's for you, Ron.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say the same thing. Walking properties, you kind of learn and get an idea of if the house is leaning or if it's sloping, right? It should be some visual cracking. It should be something that you would actually see. But, if you're really, as EL said, if you're going to invest into these properties, get the title work done and everything like that, you might as well just go and just get the review. Get one of these guys just so you have a peace of mind and have an actual professional that will crawl into the attic and go under the foundation if it's pier and beam, and you'll get a real idea of what you're working with.
Yeah, and that was a great question. We've looked at properties that have been burned, and we don't know whether the house is, the existing frame is salvageable or not. So we actually hire a structural engineer to walk the property, and they'll sit there and identify which boards need to go, which boards can stay, and then they'll determine whether the house has a certain percentage of framework that is still there, which still keeps it at that same age, or we have to tear this thing down and basically consider it a new build. So definitely that piggybacks on your answer there, Ron, of a structural engineer. EL, it says here, Frank Lou asks, the foreign funding vetting mentioned in earlier, is that something BRPS title provides or something title companies provide in general?
Something that BRPS does because of our relationship with Bank of Scotland. And because of the training that I do, I work with a lot of consulates and embassies. So that's where that is derived from. So it's not proprietary, but most don't do it. That's just it. Most don't do it.
I can attest to that. I can definitely attest to that with some international funding that we've received in the past. That's one of the reasons why we go to BRPS. Roya Javid asks, great tips about international financing and banking. Thank you, Roya. We really appreciate those comments. Thanks a lot, guys. Myra asked, what is the best way to connect with Mr. Carib? Oh, with EL. Myra was asking. Yeah. So Enid's putting up that information there, Myra. Reach out to him, and he's also in the members vendors directory. You can find EL there. Joseph Settled asked, when I buy title insurance as a part of a closing on the property, aren't they doing the investigation for me?
Yes, we are. We're investigating all the liens and encumbrances, but this is what you have to remember, and this is also a negotiating tool as well. Normally the seller pays the owner title policy, but a lot of times you can negotiate that with the seller, especially if they're hot and heavy to sell. So, but all the investigation on what the liens and encumbrances, that's what the title commitment is for. We can't close it unless we clean up what's on that title. If you have a clouded title, if you have the liens and encumbrances, if you have a divorce that has placed a lien on the sale of that property, title is going to find that. If that property is in foreclosure, title is going to find that, because we get notifications through LexisNexis and everything in the courthouse, just like everybody else in that regard. But it's a report that we get daily when we pull the title commitment. And we get the title commitments back in 3 to 5 days. So basically, as I tell people all the time, show a little patience before you waste your money.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Franco Montano asked, for permitting, how do you handle a situation when you purchase a property that had an unpermitted bathroom and unpermitted finished basement added,
Whoa.
and you want to get everything fixed and permitted? Ooh, Franco.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I guess a rebuttal would be, is this something that you previously owned, you live in, or you're looking to purchase as an investment? Because that can determine, I think you get away with a little bit more if you actually live there, but it's just a matter of like me coming in, measuring your home and creating an existing floor plan, right? And then I would have to take that to the city and have a discussion about what are the next steps for us, because once they get the plans, they can see what's going on and what you're trying to do, then they can guide us on what is the next steps to get this approved. Because I see that a lot as well, when people are adding on additions and stuff like that. And sometimes, depending on where you're at, they'll tell you to knock it down and start over. So you gotta be very careful of like some of the projects or jobs that you're getting involved with.
Yeah,
And can I add to that, please?
absolutely.
We're doing a deal. We had a transaction in our office, and the realtor listed it as a fourplex. What they did is they added 2 additional buildings without permits and called their duplex a fourplex. When we sent the surveyor out there, there was no licensed improvements allowed. So now we're in a fight. Now, I shouldn't say we because we're holding the earnest money. The buyer wants his earnest money back because he thought he was buying a fourplex and it's actually a duplex with 2 additional buildings. Well, the seller doesn't want to release the earnest money. So now, is it fraud or did he just add on and say, hey, I have a fourplex for sale? We don't know. We're not attorneys, but it's now a dual suit going back and forth. So when you have somebody like Ron and Diego that's going to take you through the permitting process and the legalization of your investment, let's just say it that way, the legalization of your investment, take that road because you could wind up in a situation like we're in the middle of right now with a seller who says he has a fourplex and it's actually a duplex with 2 additional buildings on it.
You're exactly right there. And Franco, one thing that I can add to that is on the investing side is if they're selling 1,500 square feet and they converted a garage of 400 square feet into additional rooms, and we find out that the 400 square feet, number one, per our inspectors, it's not permitted, 2, may not be up to code. We're not buying 1,500 square feet. What we're technically telling them is that the offer is made at the 1,100 square feet, but we're also going to give you an estimate of what it's going to cost to demo everything that was done incorrectly. And then now we're going to add our cost to make it properly 1,500 square
Right.
feet. And now that gets added to our repair estimations, which means we have to offer them less. So you technically can use that failure on their part as an advantage to discounting price.
Absolutely.
And do it, and it happens all the time. So great question there, Franco. Gabriel Kwok, our friend Gabe Ron is here. We're super excited with this project. Should I title my property under just the name of the LLC or LLC with the state as well, i.e. ABC LLC versus ABC LLC, a Texas limited liability company to prevent title fraud? Yeah.
Basically, that's a lender requirement. You know, the lender is going to tell us how it needs to be vested.
Okay.
The lender is going to tell us how to be vested because you have that situation happens all the time. But the lender's requirements, their internal compliance policies are going to tell us how that property needs to be vested. That's not the title company, that's the lender.
And Gabe, in the members directory, EL's information is there if you had any more information. He's one of the properties that we're working on in the co-housing here in Houston that's continually buying. Mr. Kenneth DeBowles, can I utilize your services here in Indiana? EL and Ron?
Yes.
Okay, EL says yes.
Actually, I'm heading to Indianapolis in October, so yeah, I'm certainly open to.
Let me know when you're going because we've got 3 in Indianapolis. One of our members, Richard Sabato, please remind me, Ron. He's got 3 that's looking for conversions and he's gonna need some plan specs.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Yep.
Excellent, awesome. That is great news. Thanks, Kenneth. Olga Kist asked, which states are open to manufactured homes?
They all are.
Yeah.
It all comes down to what lender is going to finance them.
Yeah.
But all states, because those are approved housing units as far as the federal government is concerned. So all states allow for manufactured housing, but all depends on where the manufactured house is going to be put at, if the lender is going to finance it there, is it anchored, is it non-anchored? You have a lot of intangible factors that are going to go into place in regard to that lender in regard to manufactured housing.
Okay, got a question here. It says, Blissman asked, no mortgage, and then I don't know if his number 2 got stuck because it's just 2, and then asked, what are the Bexar County short-term rental rules? I think that is that off topic, or you guys either more along the lines of EL, are you familiar?
No, but basically all I know is rental rules are come down to lender again, sometimes city, sometimes county, because I know in Houston Harris County, you can't have a lease longer than 2 years.
Yep, excellent. That's more of a lender question.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. And Bliss, thank you for asking that question. Marlene asked to the title person, E.L. Craine, can you help in how to obtain the property where I am one of a couple who have a lien on a property, and what other encumbrances are involved?
Well, we can look at the title commitment and see what the payoffs are. If there's any legal ramifications for the buy-sell. But the only way you're going to be able to see that is if the title commitment is reviewed on Schedule C. And if you put a lien on there, then sometimes you have to justify a lien. You know, so that's what comes into place with that. But, you know, if you reach out, we can help see what's going on exactly.
Thank you, Marlene. Good question there. Crystal asked, can I answer this one, Ron? Are permit expediters worth the money? That is a big why for like, wow. Yes.
Yes, absolutely yes.
They are absolutely worth their money, Crystal.
They're integral. They're integral nowadays. They're integral nowadays.
And I tell everybody, if you've never gone to your city permitting office, just enjoy a cup of coffee, sit on a bench, and watch the madness.
No, bring something to sit on, something soft to sit on.
Oh, yeah.
I would just, the only thing I'll add to that is that it's just the communication part, right? Of just constantly being in connection with the permit office, responding quickly and getting it done. Yes. Most people don't have that type of time, and that's pretty much what you're paying for.
Good answer there. Joseph Stevens asked, hi, Il, Craine, do you also clean the title?
Yes. We can help remove bad liens, bad encumbrances, things like that. I mean, and that happens a lot when you have a traditional name, Michael Jones, James Smith. It happens a lot. So yes, we can help you help. You know, it's basically affidavit based. You know, we get not me. I like to call them not me affidavits or not same person affidavits. No, it's not me. So we get an affidavit and get it.
So we have here, Lou Silva asked, hate to put EL on the spot, but since BRPS title provides the foreign funding research services, does BRPS provide other services normally not offered by title companies? Yes, Lou, they have some of the best bourbons and scotches at their offices.
This is true. This is true.
I need to get over it then.
That Macallan you guys have in there.
Yes, we one of the things we do is we train. Our goal is to train the buyer, train the seller in regard to the things they do, and basically we're supporting what Strata Ventures does. And if you're a real estate professional, we help with that. And one of the things that we provide resources, especially for investors, and this is through Strata Ventures, of course, we can actually secure data to help you acquire real estate you might be interested in. You know, we get notice of default, pre-notice of default, short sale opportunities, foreclosure opportunities, or we can go in and say, hey, this person's been in this house for 30 years and they might be ready to buy. And it might be an oversized lot that you can put 2 or 3 structures on there. So we can actually pull that data for you through the Strata Ventures platform.
Yeah, and let me piggyback on that one. You know, working with EL and his company, even if it's just the young lady at your guys' Galleria office, or post the office you guys have off San Felipe. Yeah. Even that person is knowledgeable enough to say, how can I help? And at least let me say as far as I can go in my knowledge, and then pass it on to the next level of expertise. Right. And you're correct, Shermel Gums, it is about the customer service. Yes. I definitely have to state that. Here's a question for you, EL. What happens? This is Alba Villalta. What happens if we close on a deal and we find that the payoff for the property being sold was short and the deal has funded? Okay, I'm going to say that cannot happen because it has to balance before any funds are released to close it out. So it has to balance. And we can take a check up to $1,500. If you're short $1,530, then we're going to need certified funds of $1,530. So if a title company cannot balance
they need to give their license back. I'm just saying, because
Got it. So Joseph Stevens asked 125 for the title search, and how much does it cost to clear title? And how long does it take on average to do?
Okay, the $125 is for the title search. If the contract and the process is through Strata Ventures, it's all a part of the services we provide. So it's not an extra charge to clear title. We have to clear title so you can close.
Yep. And Joseph also asked what year McAllen. We're not going to tell you. You got to go visit the office. That's the only way you find out, Joseph. Okay, we have another question here. That's it, guys. Thanks for asking questions. We're getting down to 7:38, so let's make these the last two questions, if that's okay with you guys.
Okay.
Crystal asks, what do you do if the property shows an easement that belongs to the city, but they have not recorded of who the easement belongs to? Example, our home has a drainage pipe that runs through several properties and handles runoffs to the streets, but we are told that the repairs are our responsibility.
Yeah. And if the city repairs it, they're going to put a lien on the property. Even though the ingress egress runs through your property, it doesn't matter, because you are above ground and they are below ground.
Yep. And here's a final question. Divorced couple selling their home, are they able to request the checks to be split at closing?
Yes. Yes, they can.
That's all. I would have thought, no, you give them the check and then that bottle of McAllen's and you let them go in your conference room, right?
No, basically, what they do is they're sharing their interests. If the couple says, hey, here's $30,000, look, we've agreed to take $15,000 a piece.
Perfect.
Yeah, as long as they are in agreement, then you have a problem. But if one says no, we're going to cut the check to both of them, let them fight it out.
Excellent. Well, guys, if you get, here's the information for EL and Ron. Feel free. This is going to be recorded, so you guys will be able to touch base again with some of the information and you know, take a look again at the recording to see if there were any answers that were missed or any other questions that you might have. Please feel free to reach out to them. They're amazing people to work with, constantly, I believe, at the top of their game, in which in this business, since it changes so much, you have to be working with people that are in that capacity. If you want to get a hold of us specifically directly with me, if you have any questions, here's my direct phone number, guys. Here is the email address to the office, and here is our 1-800 phone number. We also look forward to you guys going to our investorrealestatetraining.com landing page, or simply just scan the QR code, and also like us and subscribe us on Facebook, on Instagram and YouTube, because we're constantly putting these presentations up. One last comment to everybody that's joining us. One thing about Strata Ventures is that we're not your average real estate education company out there, which we're not an education company. We always tell people we are an implementation company. Because with the implementation company is you can take all the education you find everywhere else, but if you're not doing anything with it, what's the point? So come to us, get to know us, work with the awesome people that we have at our company and our team and our vendors, because we strive to earn your business at a fraction of what's out there industry-wise. All our vendors are constantly saying, Diego, why do you guys just charge so little for your services? It's because we want you to be productive so you can use the services of these two gentlemen and other vendors a lot more for your own business. So with that, guys, thank you so much. Any closing comments that you want to make before we go ahead and end?
Basically, educate yourself prior to any transaction.
I will leave with this. If you're getting into real estate investing, just be patient.
Be patient. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Go to our landing page, investorrealestatetraining.com, and you'll have the schedule on the events for all the up and coming new webinars that we're holding. And a large and amazing always thank you to Orion and Enid that put these events on. They work very, very hard. So all of you that joined us, if we can give them a huge congratulations and thank you. They're amazing people. And again, as normal, I'm very, very lucky to have people like that on staff at SVI. So everybody have yourself a wonderful evening. Ron, EL.
Thank you.
Catch you guys later.
All right. Take care now.
Yes, sir.
All right.